The transfer window is amongst some of the most exciting at times as a football fan, but for every wonder kid that you sign, there are also multi-million pound flops. Wolves have pretty much had it all over the last few years, but in today's video, we're going to be taking a look at the players that we signed throughout the 22-23 season and rank them from A to D, as we have done before, A being the very best and top signings, and D being the players that we wish had never worn the old gold. As always, guys, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. We're at Talking Wolves everywhere across social medias to keep you up to date with the latest Wolves news. And yeah, we've got 12 players today that I'm going to be looking at and ranking from A to D. Hopefully there are more towards the A side, but I can't see it being too many after the disaster of last season. Let's start off with Diego Costa anyway. Costa, who was a player that came into Wolves when we needed and we were desperate for a striker, really. I think the positives from the Diego Costa deal were that he came in, really improved things behind the scenes, created a really nice atmosphere, especially with some of the Brazilian lads that had come in during January as well. But the football inside left a little bit to be desired for. I think with Costa, I wasn't really expecting, it was hard to expect, obviously, the Chelsea and Atletico Madrid days to return to the Premier League, but a little bit underwhelming. Obviously, just the one goal during his time. I think it'd be very unfair for me to put him at D, but I will put Diego Costa's time at Wolves at C. Moving on to Matthias Kunya now. Again, a player that is going to be here beyond this season. Initially a loan, but Wolves have agreed to pay quite a decent amount of money for Matthias Kunya. Looks a very talented player. Definitely not a number 9, which some people have been saying, or at least the club are trying to peddle that, you know, Kunya could be a number 9. But definitely a player that needs to be playing with another striker, or possibly even off the wing, which I'm surprised that we didn't see a little bit more throughout the second half of the season. Again, some decent moments. Possibly would have hoped for 1 or 2 more goal contributions, but still positive signs there. Again, I don't mean this in disrespect to Kunya. I'm going to put him at C for now, but I'm really hoping that, you know, in videos and content that we do between now and the end of next season, we are really singing this guy's praises. I think the thing that probably keeps him at C for me is the fee, and obviously that's out of his control, but for the amount of money that we are going to be spending on Matthias Kunya, we need some serious goal contributions next season. But his attitude, his family obviously are enjoying it. He's enjoying his time here, but his attitude is bang on, and I'm really hoping that we can be singing his praises a lot more in the 23-24 season. Next up, we've got Dan Bentley. Again, it'll be... he's had a couple of games, hasn't he? And I feel like I'm just going to be repeating myself here. But again, this is probably a C for Dan Bentley as well. Decent fee. You know, you can't argue with the fee. It was pretty much nothing. I think it was about 50k, £50,000. But again, added a leader into the dressing room, which we severely lacked. Had a couple of opportunities in the first team. A game at Old Trafford. Although we lost, he had a really good performance against Everton. I think he'll be disappointed with the way that he conceded the goal. But probably a player that will be here next year. I don't think he's ever going to be consistently Wolves number 1, but a decent player that's obviously going to push whoever is number 1 all the way. So yeah, another C for Dan Bentley. But for him, couldn't really have done much more, I suppose. Maybe then, other than saving that chance that Everton had right at the death. And I think I would have been a lot happier come the end of the season. Next up, we've got Boubacar Traore. Again, his time at the club, you know, obviously a very talented player there. But his time, playing time has been very limited. It looks like it's due to injuries, really. He came to the club very, very late. I think it was deadline day of the summer transfer window. So it would have taken him a long, long time to bed into this squad. And I don't think we really saw Boubacar Traore come into the side and start his first games until Steve Davis actually took over. But definitely a decent player in there. The fee isn't too bad either. But again... I don't think I can put him above a C. Now, this is getting quite boring, isn't it, for you guys, just seeing these constant Cs? I'm hoping, I'm pretty sure it will change soon. But yeah, I'm going to put Boubacar Traore as a C. Like Matthias Kunya, another player that I'm really excited to see from next season onwards. Obviously, with certain midfielders leaving the club, Neves potentially going, Moutinho already gone. It's a chance for Boubacar Traore to really step up. Really solid box-to-box midfielder. And if he can stay fit, I think he'll be a big part of the Wolves squad again next season. Next up, we've got Craig Dawson, and I'm glad to say he's not going to be a C. We move Craig Dawson, for me, up to an A. And I only mean that in, well, there's a couple of reasons why. I think the fee was very decent at the time. You've added another leader into the squad, and he really helped shore up our defence. I say shore up, obviously we had a couple of heavy defeats away from home towards the end of the season, but I think especially the home games, Craig Dawson was pivotal in those. He managed to get himself a goal, really always going to be a nuisance in and around the area during set pieces as well, and I think that's been massive for Wolves. But a really solid signing, and obviously Wolves were after him in the summer window. It didn't quite work out. The dominoes didn't quite fall in the right places for Wolves at that time, and bringing him in January for Lopetegui was a huge boost. Potentially could be the captain for Wolves next season if Ruben Neves does move on, but a really solid signing for Wolves, so I'm putting Craig Dawson in the A. Pablo Sarabi are up next, and again, it's been a bit of a strange start for life at him at Molineux. Had a really good season last year at Sporting. Went back to PSG and didn't really get much opportunities, and signed for Wolves in January. And although he started or got a decent amount of minutes in his early days, towards the end of the season his minutes dried up a little bit. He looked at times a little bit of a live wire. He had opportunities in those opening games. He used to come in and out of matches. But I think for him personally, there have been a number of things which you discussed on the channel. He's welcomed children into his family. It's a brand new country for him. So I'm hoping, again, another player next season, now he's settled down a little bit, should, crack on and have a much better campaign. For this one, I'm going to go with a C as well. I don't think it's a D because I think the fee is more than fair for Pablo Sarabi. I think the club have brokered a really good deal there. But yeah, I'm really hoping next season he does step it up. We get some more goals, get some more assists from him, and overall just get some much better performances out of Pablo Sarabi. Mario Lemina, it's another player that I can confidently put in A, I think. And again, very similar circumstances and situation to Craig Dawson. Mario Lemina has had game time and played for clubs in England before, and for some reason not really had the best reputation. He's a player that Wolves have looked at before. We had rumours, quite strong rumours that we were looking at him previously as well. But he's come into this club, and again, just like Craig Dawson shored up the defence, Mario Lemina was a real presence in the midfield. I think, again, more in the home games. I think he's been a real presence in those home games, but off the pitch as well. You can see with some of the content that the club's doing, I think as a character, as a human being, he's settled down a lot more. He seems to be enjoying it at the club a lot more, but really added a little bit of steel to that midfield that we were severely lacking before January. So I'm happy to say I could put Mario Lemina in the A bracket, in and around 10 million quid. I think Wolves will get their money's worth if he can continue with those type of performances for the next year or two as well. But Mario Lemina, happy to say that he can go into the A pile. Next up is Sasha Collis. A lot of money spent on Collis, and unfortunately we've only seen him for 45 minutes, so I can't do anything other than put him in the D section. With Collis, it sounds like the club are going to be counting on him for next season if he can get fit. I think he'll be fitter than he ever was. With the amount of recovery time that he's had, and hopefully Wolves can put him in that right place. If he can stay fit next season, it gives Wolves a completely different option, something that we've never seen before for a long time anyway at Wolves. Real presence and target man up front. So it'll really be intriguing to see if Lopetegui does count on him, how our play style changes to suit Kalajdzic a little bit more. But unfortunately, it's sort of out of his control. It's going to be a D because we spent a lot of money on him and we just haven't seen enough of him to give him a much better rating. Next up is Xiao Gomez, the story really of the January transfer window, and it sort of overshadowed the signings that we had. I think Pablo Sarabi was signed a similar sort of time, and unfortunately, it just got overshadowed by this whole Wolves and Lyon saga with Xiao Gomez. Xiao Gomez is definitely a talented player, only at 21 years of age. Cost Wolves around sort of 16 to 18 million pounds, but he's going to be a very talented player. And like I said a little bit earlier on with Boubacar Traore, I think he's really got, if things fall for him in the right places, he's got a really good future at Wolves in the next couple of years. He should get a lot more game time next year as well, you would hope. Debut goal at Southampton was fantastic. Now for the player himself, I don't think he's quite done enough yet to warrant a really high rating, but I'm going to put him in the B bracket, only because I think the fee and the player that we've got there could easily make Wolves some serious money in the future. I think he's a very talented signing, a player that obviously wants to be here in the Premier League. So let's wait and see. But I'm hoping, again, he's another key player for Wolves next year. Next up is Nathan Collins. I think he was the very first signing of the season, which came around quite quickly. Around £20 million spent on Nathan Collins. 21 years of age, obviously still very, very young. But for whatever reason, it's just not worked out, has it, for at Wolves for Nathan Collins? I think it may seem harsh, but I think I might put Nathan Collins in the D section for now. Not completely writing him off as a player. There's obviously qualities there. There's obviously a player there that's possibly low on a little bit of confidence. But the D is more to do with his performances this season rather than the player that I think Wolves have bought into. I think, if you ask me, or if we look at it sort of this time next year, I'm hoping that Nathan Collins could be nudging up to that sort of B-A section. Completely depends on how Wolves see him and what squad status that Nathan Collins has for the 23-24 season. But I think with the amount of money that we spent, we certainly didn't see enough of that back. And unfortunately for Nathan Collins, I think I'll have to put him in the D section. May seem a little bit harsh for some of you guys, but yeah, for now, Collins is the D. Next up, and this is probably the easiest decision all video, Gonzalo Guedes signing for Wolves in Euros, 32.6 million. An absolute disaster by this football club. And I can't say, people will go on to, or could go on to my video when we were talking about Gonzalo Guedes when he signed last summer. And I was raving about him. In Spain, he had a real reputation, got a really decent amount of goal involvements. But it was clearly a player that never wanted to get on that plane to England and to come to Wolverhampton Wanderers. It's the easiest, I'm not going to say easiest D, I'm going to give him my life, but it's the easiest decision, putting him in D, because, yeah, absolutely disastrous. And, he got, I think he got 1 or 2 goals, didn't he? I think he scored against Brighton, scored in the FA Cup as well. There were certain glimpses, maybe like 5 minutes here and there, where you see, this is the player that we've been waiting for, and then it'd be gone again. So, Guedes a D. Wolves really need to, I'd just get rid of him in the summer, recoup as much money as they can for him, because that has been an absolute disaster. And the final player on my list is Matthias Nunes, the record signing for Wolverhampton Wanderers. This one is a difficult one as well, because I can easily, and based on some of the reasonings I gave for other players like Nathan Collins, you could easily see me put him in D as well. I think he's just done enough to creep into that C spot. Really, I would have wanted and expected this time last year, if you said Nunes is coming, you'd be expected to put him straight at the top of the A section, but that just hasn't happened. It's been really underwhelming performances by Nunes. You would really hope for a little bit more from him, but he has been ever present. He has shown real glimpses of quality at times. He has scored winning goals like that game against Chelsea as well. So he has definitely contributed for Wolves this season, just not enough to what should warrant his price tag, and not enough to what the fans and pundits and people expected. So for now, Nunes is a low C, I would say, because I have been disappointed by his performances. But he's another player, like I've said with a number of players, settle him down, get a proper pre-season behind him, because again, he didn't join Wolves until quite late in the pre-season, possibly even creeping into the start of the year, the start of the season. So Nunes, proper pre-season behind him. Hopefully he'll stay at the club, and I think again it'll be a much better campaign for him next year. So that is my list, guys, A to D of the Wolves 22-23 signings. Of course, there's players in there like Hwang Hee-chan, who did sign on a permanent basis, but he was at the club previously as well. And fingers crossed, we do one of these maybe halfway through the season or at the end of next season, and hopefully the grades are a hell of a lot better. But do let me know your thoughts, guys, and your grades in the comment section down below. Where would you rank these Wolves players from A to D? As always, your support is appreciated. Be sure to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new, guys, and I'll see you all very, very soon.